Hey guys, Abby here with a special report. The 442nd World Cup is organized by the International Quidditch Association and brought to you by Butterbeer, Pumpkin Juice, Gringotts Wizarding Bank, and Nimbus 2001. It has taken a year and 500 Ministry Task Force workers to construct the Quidditch Trillium Stadium here on Dartmoor. The stadium will hold 100,000, and getting that many witches and wizards here has been a logistical feat. There are 200 portkeys around Britain to assist those traveling to the Cup, and with staggered arrivals implemented to help maintain the statute of wizarding secrecy, some have arrived 2 weeks early. Defeating Peru, Ireland is set to face the Bulgarian national Quidditch team, who have won their last 12 Eastern European Championships. With the Bulgarians rock-solid defending and the Irish national team's superior scoring ability, this is going to be a clash of the titans. Join us on August 25th after the match for your post-game report of the 442nd World Cup.
Well, hello there, and welcome back to the podcast that must not be named. I am not Luke.
And I am certainly not Melissa.
And we are here, but not there, discussing Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, chapter number 7, Bagman and Crouch. This chapter was 20 pages long, which was 2.72% of the book. Hey, Benj, what's going on here?
Take it away, Benj.
The group arrives at the farmland where they will be camping, and Harry helps Mr. Weasley pay the site manager, Mr. Roberts, in Muggle money. They head over to the campsite and set up 2 tents, one for the boys, one for the girls. Harry is shocked by how spacious they are on the insides. Ron, Harry, and Hermione stroll across the campgrounds to collect a bucket of water from the tap. On their way, they pass a wizard, children on tiny broomsticks, a Salem Witches Institute banner, and a village of tents covered in shamrocks, the spurs of the Irish national team. They pass then through the Bulgarian tents, which are covered in posters of Victor Krum, the team's young, magnificent, scowling seeker. Back at the tents, Mr. Weasley is having a grand old time trying to start a fire with matches, and are later joined by the 3 eldest Weasley brothers. Ludo, Bagman, and Barty Crouch join them for a few minutes, and they discuss another event coming up this year, but won't say what. Bagman takes a bet from the twins that Ireland will win, but Krum will get the snitch, and the group buys a few more trinkets on the way to the Quidditch World Cup match.
So there was like a character introduction or 2 or 12.
Every paragraph.
20.
There were a lot of characters.
I mean,
did
literally.
not name them all. I did not put them all. I just couldn't. There were a lot of unnamed characters that I have a catch-all of. All sorts of other witches and wizards and ministry workers. So just know that we missed a bunch.
But you pulled the actual names.
Correct. So the first one, we'll just go in order. We've got Basil, who is the Portkey receptionist, host.
Sure, yes.
Then we have Mr. Roberts and Mr. Payne. Mr. Roberts is the campsite Muggle attendant, I guess. We then meet Ludo Bagman, who's the head of magical games and sports. We hear about Perkins, who works with Arthur at the office, who has
owner of the tents,
and also owner of Having Lumbago.
Yes, this is true.
We see a small child named Kevin, and his slugs and his mom.
You bust slug.
We meet, similar to Amos Diggory, a parent of a kid that Harry goes to school with, in Mrs. Finnegan.
Seamus's mom. We get a picture, not a meeting, but a picture of the Bulgarian seeker, Victor Krum. We meet crowd-pleasing favorite Archie in his flowery nightgown. We have Cuthbert Mockridge, head of the Goblin Liaison Office.
That sounds like a fun job.
Gilbert Wimple from the Committee on Experimental Charms.
He's had those antlers for a few months.
And Arnold Peasgood, an obliviator.
We also meet, we have a passing by kind of reference to Bode and Croker, who are unspeakables in the Department of Mysteries. We know that Ludo Bagman has a couple bets going with Roddy Pontner and Agatha Timms.
We get to meet Barty Crouch, who is our dear pal Percy's boss. However, we get a new name for our friend Percy in Barty's pet name for him, Weatherby.
Weatherby. That's a great scene.
Plus, we hear of Ali Bashir and his potential importing of flying carpets.
Absolutely. I know there were some American middle-aged American witches that are referenced. There, I think, were 3 African wizards. There were so many.
The Irish, just collectively.
Yeah. Like we're going to say anything else with that lot around.
Right.
Of course, we're supporting Ireland. Yeah. I guess location introductions would be the entire campsite, right?
And the interior of the tent.
Yeah, in the tent.
And the, what's it called? The water tap. We'll give it that. Yeah. That was a location-ish. They had to travel there.
The Irish side.
The Bulgarian side.
Yeah. So several new places. Basically everything here was new. Not real specific though. Just campsite near the woods.
It's world building.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
Basically tailgating wizard style.
Absolutely. Doesn't that sound awesome?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. We do have some magicabulary as well. We have the Wimborne Wasps, the Salem Witches Institute, the Puddlemere United Reserve Team. We also have the Muggle Artifact, basically calling something a Muggle Artifact, which is proclaimed by the Registry of Prescribed Charmable Objects.
I want that list.
Yeah, these are the things that you're allowed to charm.
Yes,
you can prescribe charms to these items.
I wonder what they are.
We know that carpets are not allowed.
No,
they used to be in Britain. Yeah, they used
to be,
mm-hmm.
but not anymore.
Not no more.
We also find out about the omnioculars.
Those seem pretty cool, don't they?
Which I never called that word that in my brain. My brain always skips the N-I syllable and just calls them omnoculars, but whatever. Omnioculars.
Gotcha.
Guess what?
Oh, did you remember?
I did remember, only because I just saw the word illustration, though, not because I actually was like, I'm going to talk about the illustration now, which means I have to, every time, open my book, because I didn't look at it earlier. I don't pay attention to pictures.
I like this picture, though.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
So we have a kind of a top hat that looks like it's floating down. I'd assume that's another port key, or is there
Oh, I was thinking it was, because there's a shamrock on it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going with dancing hat on the Irish side.
Okay.
I was just going, or it could be at the end of the chapter, they were talking about all the different things you could purchase.
Mm-hmm.
And there was pointed green hats bedecked with dancing shamrocks. Okay. And so in my head, this is a dancing hat. Well, it's not a pointed hat.
Pointed, but that's okay.
It's way more Irish than a pointed hat.
Way more Irish. Anyway. I feel like there's a buckle behind that shamrock.
Oh, there is absolutely going to be a buckle behind the shamrock. So I feel like this is a picture we could hang in our mom's house on St. Patrick's Day, and she would have no idea that it was really a Harry Potter reference.
Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent. I'm going to need this in color, people.
Okay. All right. Good picture, though. I like it.
Very. All right, Luke, let's go ahead and jump into your notes.
We kind of already touched on it a little bit, but Kevin, the small child, stealing his dad's wand and then engorging slugs, and I don't know, the you bust slug. Do
you think it's Kevin McAllister from Home Alone?
Because I hope so.
That would explain a lot in the movie.
Well, on our Game of Thrones podcast, we call Kevin Lannister Kevin Nick Lannister.
Nice.
A Kevin McAllister reference. So,
mm-hmm.
I know that's completely unrelated.
Is that true? There's a guy named Kevin who is driving his mom crazy. I feel very related.
Yeah, it just makes me wonder, do small children, accidentally get their parents' wands and accidentally perform magic often kind of thing? Or is this
Well, small children here can get scissors and accidentally cut hair, so I would say probably, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's just, again, world building. We haven't seen too many wizarding
toddlers.
Babies
Yeah, I really liked that. Like, that's always one of my favorites, especially when the mom steps on the slug, because you can just see her. Like, at the end of the day, that moment shows so much that being a parent is being a parent. Magic or not, kids can drive you crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And they're cute and adorable and do cute and adorable things to
And they're
people who
also
are not
gross.
their parent.
And they're also gross.
And disgusting.
Yeah,
and don't listen.
You just get over things real quick on gross.
Yeah, you're over it.
Yeah, just know future parents, a lot of gross stuff.
And the busting of the slug is nothing.
Totally.
Ooh, tangent. Here we are. Hi, welcome to the tangent.
So welcome back to the podcast. And I want to talk about Oliver Wood a little bit as well. We see him here, and we meet his parents a bit. We don't actually spend any time with him, but Harry meets his parents. And I think it's really cool seeing Oliver here. Makes sense. I mean, this is absolutely his element, right? And kind of nice to see that he's, made it to the reserve team of what I would assume is some, professional Quidditch team. So that's good on him. That's awesome.
I love Oliver Wood. I have always loved Oliver Wood, even before he was cast in the movies.
Sean Baker's staff.
Yes.
Staff, yeah.
Well cast, might I add, but I do love Oliver Wood.
But yeah, so it was just nice seeing him here. Very, very fitting cameo, almost. Is a little bit how that feels, but I liked it.
True. That's all right. We'll take it.
Another note that I have here is Barty Crouch's, his whole appearance is so convincing that even, as a muggle, that Harry believes that even Vernon wouldn't know that he was a wizard. And it describes his mustache as being, so neatly trimmed that it looks like he did it using a slide rule. And
a slide rule, which here means a mathematical tool.
Exactly. High precision. And the mascot for my university, it's an 80% engineering school, carries a slide rule. So there you go.
Aww.
It's a very engineer thing. Slide
and not very a sports school. So, yeah.
Which, yeah. Barty Crouch seems like he would maybe fit in, I guess.
Yes, he would.
My last note here is flying carpets seem like just the best, right? That just seems like the way you should go. That seems too practical.
Well, I mean, if people tend to fly over using apparition because apparition is dangerous, you're not going to strap a car seat on the back of a broom.
Unless it's one of those bicycle seats.
Even still. That, to me, the broomstick feels like motorcycles, sort of. This feels like a family, like a minivan. I could set up seatbelts. I could put a basket of snacks in between the kids. There'd be enough space that I could separate them so they couldn't hit each other while we were traveling.
Down the whole time.
Right. Tuck them in, take a nap. Yeah. Put on some protection spells so they don't roll off the edge, but it's fine. Mm-hmm. So yeah, no, I say flying carpet, sign me up.
Yeah, I think obviously the issue with it is it's so large, it's hard to not see that from.
I'll fly it at night. It's fine.
Yeah, I think that's the main reason it's been.
Here's what I'll do. I got it. Here's what I'll do. I will bewitch the bottom of my carpet to look like the sky outside, much like the ceiling of the Great Hall at Hogwarts.
Boom. Easy.
Done. Problem solved. New marketing campaign. I'm bringing back magic carpets.
Okay. All right. Look for that t-shirt as well. Bringing magic carpets back.
Melissa's magic carpet.
Just into Ria's face on it. All right. What kind of notes do you have on this chapter? You have a lot here.
I do. And this thought really occurred to me starting in chapter 6. So I actually had a thought in chapter 6, but it really jumped out at me even more in chapter 7. So I put it here. Mr. Weasley tries so hard to muggle it up. He does. But he doesn't do his research with muggle money and muggle camping and muggle cooking and fire building and various other muggling. Yet he always defers to Harry as his go-to muggle expert. Why? That is a poor choice on his part. Yeah. Because Harry knows nothing. Harry went nowhere. Harry lived in a freaking cupboard. Harry went to visit old smelly Mrs. Fig and her cats anytime his family did anything. He knows nothing of muggleness simply because he had no money. He had no experiences. He did nothing. If only they had another person in their group who grew up as a muggle with parents who took her to places like, France, and had spending money for her birthday to buy, a cat, and other things that more normal muggles would know and do that Harry did not have experiences with.
Too bad they don't have anyone in their group like that. What's your next point? Yeah, no, absolutely. Hermione is the resource that Arthur should be using here.
And at the end of the day, she's smarter than Harry.
Yeah.
She's going to figure it out better than Harry would. If nobody knows, Hermione's going to figure it out anyway. Go to her.
Mm-hmm.
Stop asking Harry.
You're entirely right. I got.
I mean, why does that happen? Is it really because the book is named after him?
I think so. It's from his perspective. So it doesn't make sense if Harry sees Arthur and Hermione kind of huddle off to the side trying to figure out the money. Like, you could make that work, but it's more interesting for Harry to also be like, I never.
It is not interesting for me. I get annoyed. You go where your best source.
Whenever they start doing the tent, he does look to both of them.
He does, but like with the fire, Hermione eventually just takes over. And it's just little things like that bother me.
Yeah, and I guess it technically you could make the assumption that maybe Arthur is more biased to trusting Harry because he's a guy kind of thing. Like, you could make that call. I don't really get that feeling from him.
I don't want to get that feeling from him.
Yeah, but I could definitely see someone being justified and making a case for that, if that's fair to say.
Yes.
And yeah, I don't want that to be the case. So, but I can see it. I mean, that's unfortunate,
but that's what it is. Okay, next point.
Oh, one more thing. What you had said on your last point, it made me think of it that we kind of touched on in a previous chapter. Chapter 4, when they're at the Dursleys and Arthur's looking around at all the Muggle stuff and just so like, what if he just recently got this Muggle job and he's just like all gung ho, but it's still really new to him. Like, he's only been there for like 4 years, kind of thing. So, you know what I mean? Like, he didn't, again, we kind of touched on, maybe he never took Muggle studies. Maybe this is something that he just got out of the ministry a while back, jumped around a bit, and then finally found a home in this position, and is the only one that's interested in doing it, kind of thing.
Okay, I can see that.
So it's still new to him, and
midlife career switch?
Kind of, yeah.
Like,
or around the ministry, different departments, kind of thing.
I can see that.
And he just found a niche here and is still just new, and that's fine.
But really enjoying it.
Yeah, absolutely. It was I never thought I would have loved this as much as I do, you know? But
it's so awesome.
Yeah.
I know nothing.
I feel like that makes a lot more sense to how inept he is at certain things.
This is, yeah. I mean, you can't be that cut off from the world, can you? I don't know. That's a subject for another time.
Yeah, sorry.
You're fine. No, it's a good point. I like it. I'm just moving on because I can. Are galleons really the size of hubcaps?
Yeah, it was described that way in book 1.
Was it? So I tried looking for it and I couldn't find it, so I figured I'd just make you.
I meant to search earlier.
Aha.
I really thought they described them as being pretty large at some point. The little bronze ones. I really, really thought it was mentioned somewhere. Hubcap, that's the only time that word is used in the whole series.
And I'm sure it's because it's a Muggle trying to describe it. So
it's described in book 1 as being like
larger,
like a saucer or something. And because I remember that from early on, it was like, well, that's impractical. And maybe it was just before that I got that, but it's not when they're in the vault here in Gringotts. It's a pretty quick description. It just gives you the conversions. Coins often. I checked when they were on the rock, the hut on the rock as well, when he pays the owl when they wake up. That was the other place where I was like, maybe it's here. Each of little bronze nut. But I don't think we touched on, apparently there was green smoke billowing out of Harry's vault whenever they opened it. That's
interesting. All right, I think I'm moving on past the hubcap thing.
Yeah,
I'm letting it. I'm not letting it go. I'm shelving it.
We'll come back. I'll find it.
Thank you. Next point. So Fred and George made the bet that Ireland would win, but Crumb would get the snitch. Why do they think that? I guess, where is that randomly coming from? I
mean, so some of the conversations that we overheard somewhat last chapter with the twins and Charlie, they were talking about how good the Irish team is, and it's like, I imagine they've been just running scores up on people, you know, like just scoring the quaffle over and over again, like just, they're so good. But
and Fred and George seem like the kind that would like know this. They would have been keeping very good tabs on it. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, they were referencing, you know, like the other matches, like England got crushed, and Wales losses. Like, so they've been checking in on scores and the box line or whatever it is.
Right.
And so they know like what the scores are. who the players are and things like that. So I think but they also know that Crumb is really, really good. I mean, apparently he's a superstar.
One-man show.
Right. And so with that, I feel like they're actually, I mean, it's pretty unlikely, obviously, but
yeah,
it seems like they
what's
have
that
a pretty
point?
good judgment. Like, they feel like it's a pretty reasonable, but yeah,
But it's not so reasonable that, like, everybody is betting it, because everybody's like, whoa, wait, hold on, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
like, it's a long shot.
it's definitely a long shot, but good on them, I guess.
I suppose. All right, I want a wizard tent.
Heck yeah, that sounds awesome.
Like, I love camping, but I can't sleep in a sleeping bag because old. So I think that would solve my problem.
Probably would. I would imagine so.
And would be so much easier to set up.
I think I just live in that. Just make that your house. Like, oh, tent, go wherever I want, set it up for the night.
Throw it on the back of your flying carpet.
Exactly, right?
There you go. Set the tent up on the flying carpet.
Boom. You just go all
RV.
the time. It's all the time. You just
RV.
There it is. Houseboat. Perfect.
Oh, okay. So
now I really want a flying carpet with a tent on it.
I'm telling you, it's like the Wizarding World trailers and RVs section. You can just tour the country and live in there forever. Done. Percy's brown nosing really got on my nerves in this chapter.
Yeah? Anything in particular?
Just the constant jumping up and the constant, hello, hi, how are you? Hi. Like, even with Ludo Bagman, who he obviously doesn't like, that's not going to stop him from being, like, falling all over himself. It was just annoying and painful to watch. You're like, dude, you're doing this to yourself. Mm-hmm. Like, everybody sees. Yeah. So, that was bothering me. Ludo Bagman bothered me.
Yeah, anything in particular?
I don't mesh well with those kinds of personalities.
I know that you don't.
Right. And I'm not confrontational, but I'm pretty matter of fact. So that kind of lackadaisical, like, disregard for any kind of semblance of order. Not that I'm saying I'm like Percy Weasley and Barty Crouch, but I would probably fit in their office a little bit better than I would at Ludo Bagman's.
I think that's probably fair.
All right, so 2 more thoughts. Number 1, the clothes in this chapter were spot on perfect. Mm-hmm. The gentleman dressed in the, I'm going to say it wrong, blue fours, the golf pants, right?
Yeah, they're basically just extra long knickers, 4 inches below.
They're like, they're like flowy. They're like mini MC Hammer pants.
Basically, parachute pants.
Yeah. The combination of kilt and poncho.
Shouldn't he be?
Well, I feel like that's something you would see walking on the runway randomly. That would be like a high fashion combination. Well, it's also silly on those people, but like that one I at least could I could forgive that in my head. Like I could make that work. The galoshes with the tweed suit, it was like, oh, you were so close. But then that brought up the question of is there special wizarding shoes then that they don't even know what shoes to wear?
Yeah, or like, do they just think muggles are so far off that like...
Right, like Harry talks about putting on his trainers or his shoes or something. Like it's usually what we would call tennis shoes, right? Mm-hmm. So like, I'm thinking you would know rain boots. I would hope.
They're camping. Maybe he just came out of the water, out of the creek.
Because he's fishing there?
I don't know. He's been living.
Okay.
He could be there for 2 weeks, for all I know.
But of course the win was Archie.
Oh, absolutely.
How I like a nice bit of breeze flowing around my privates and Hermione loses it.
I love it.
Love it. That is fantastic. I really like that. And my only other thought here in this chapter is I guarantee that if I was at this game, right, I am not one to buy paraphernalia. I'm not one to get suckered into souvenirs, but I guarantee you my husband would walk out with an Ireland scarf.
Oh, absolutely.
Without doubt. Oh, well, you would get one and you'd probably have like the hat with the dancing shamrock and maybe the Victor Crumb little model. I don't buy a lot of those things, but we would totally have the Ireland scarf. We would be supporting Ireland, hands down, no questions asked. That is the way we go in my house. And my husband didn't read Harry Potter and he would pick that anyway.
Fair enough. You ready for some questions?
Yes.
I've got 5 of them. Let's burn them up.
Go.
Which team's campsite would you like to hang out in?
Ireland for the beer.
Yeah.
And because my husband wouldn't allow me to not.
Question.
I'm telling you, this is his chapter.
Yeah, question 2. Yeah, this section.
It's very Bob.
It's very Bob.
Shout out, Bob.
Hey, first.
It's all he's gonna get.
Yeah, this is gonna be it.
It's sporting.
It's sport. Yay, it's sports. Question 2. Are you worried about Mr. Roberts and the number of memory charms that he's undergone?
I feel like I would need to read the research on the long-term effects of memory charms.
Well, the only experience we have is old Lockhart, right?
That's true. And it did not work out so well for him with his failed memory charm. But these aren't failed memory charms.
Right.
These are working. So I would say I would definitely place somebody watching him post World Cup for a few days / weeks, just to ensure that there was not any sort of magical malady that needed to be further studied.
Yeah, permanent damage kind of deal.
Of course, then if there was, and he'd have to be treated, then they'd have to obviate his treatment. So there's that.
Tricky stuff, having magic.
Right.
Secret.
Oh, that magic.
Question 3. How dangerous is splinching?
Well, I think it depends. Like, if I accidentally left, like, my leg hairs somewhere, that would be quite useful. Because then I wouldn't have to shave anymore.
The witches shave their legs. Is
I think
splinching.
Just the hairs, right?
Yes.
Like, right off at the follicles. But, like, what if I came back and I didn't have my nose? That would be a problem. But my question is, I wonder how easily it can be repaired. Like, if my nose was gone, if I could find the nose, it could probably be reattached. I wonder if it's like, if you accidentally chop off your finger, you have so many, depending on if it's a clean cut, you have so long before you can sew it back on. And so I wonder, like, if it's like that, but like, what if it's like my right side makes it and my left doesn't? There's no more heartbeat or like, brainstem function. So like, am I just dead? Can that be repaired? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it seems we've got some evidence that wizards can survive things a little bit better than muggles seem to. So I wonder if there's like some kind of... Since it's a magical thing that happens, I don't know. It's weird. Like it seems like it should be a
magic
lot more,
happens.
It should be a lot more brutal than than what's going to be portrayed in a young adult or children's book. Like
right. I don't know.
I think it could be easily really graphic.
Yes, true.
Yeah. Is it surprising that Harry hadn't thought about international wizards before?
Yes. No. Maybe. I don't know. And I say that on purpose because I'm not at all surprised by it, because he's a 14-year-old kid who didn't even know about wizards before and has only lived in this world for 3 years. And quite frankly, those years were kind of full of other problems. So we're going to say self-centered teen mode plus brand new to the world plus, dealing with people trying to kill him all the time. So I'm okay with him not. I wish it had been brought up like in passing by somebody else beforehand. Like, Hermione's all over it. But it's very possible. And here's what I think. It's very possible that she's brought it up in conversation, like not on-screen book conversation, but conversation, and the boys paid the zero in attention to her. That's what I think.
I think that could be fair. Yeah.
You?
I don't think it's that surprising that he hasn't thought about it before, for basically the same reasons that you've already touched on. He's had a lot going on, like, to be entirely fair. It's been pretty hectic first 3 years in the wizard world. Year 1, I mean, no chance. It just...
No. That was too overwhelming.
If they ever paid attention to history of magic, I feel like that's going to be something that they would talk about.
Theoretically, yes.
It just seems like it would come up like, oh, there are also wizards in other places. Like, that just seems like a natural thing to talk about. But I think it could also be, like, the way it describes Harry realizing he's never thought about it could also be a JK didn't really put much thought into it initially. And so this is like her... like actively like saying, hey, this is a thing.
But at the same time, as opposed to other times when we're like, you didn't think about this in enough time. This one, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with this just becoming a thing now.
Yeah, no, I think it's well described.
Yes.
And it's a cool eye-opening experience to live through Harry.
Yes.
I like the way it's done. Last question. Should Arthur have prevented the twins from gambling?
No.
Okay, why?
Because he'd already been the reason they got in trouble with their mother. And my assumption is he probably felt a little bad that she found out about the toffee with Dudley when that was not his intention. which then led them to not be able to bring their things with them. And I don't believe Arthur cares about the Weasley Wizarding Wheezes. I get the impression that
it doesn't bother him, at least.
He cares because Molly cares, but Arthur does not care.
Right.
But because that is the battle right now, parents must choose their battles. And if the battle that his wife has chosen for him is the Wizarding Wheeze battle, then the gambling battle is not a battle he is going to fight on his own, and he will probably make sure wife doesn't know.
Yes. I think so. He's not going to make that quote-unquote mistake again.
At least not this summer.
Yeah, not anytime soon. And I'm not saying it's a mistake to tell your wife things like that.
No,
but it kind of backfired on what his actual intentions were, and I think he does care about the twins, and like it was ill done, kind of the way it turned out previously. So he's just kind of silently siding with them.
Well, I mean, he gave his opinion that it's not a good idea to gamble all your savings.
Yep.
They counter-argued. He conceded.
Yep.
End of discussion.
Yep.
Which theoretically, theoretically, he could say, I told them.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe not forcefully, but I told them not to. I recommended. That sounds like something our dad would do. Like, we had a conversation about it.
I talked to him about it.
Yeah, I talked to him about it. Yeah. Okay, good. Mom assumes nothing happened. Dad has checked his box. Everybody's happy.
All requirements were fulfilled.
Do not tell my husband or my children this conversation that I'm siding with the dad.
Fair. He'll never listen, so it's okay.
It's just between you and me and all
the
the
microphones. These microphones aren't telling anybody.
Everybody out there. This is just between us. Okay, great, thanks. So, Luke, let's get into what was your favorite line for our first chapter superlative?
I love looking at this, and we both have about half a book.
They're huge. It's huge.
All right, my favorite line. Just put them on, Archie. There's a good chap. You can't walk around like that. The muggle at the gate's already getting suspicious. I bought this in a muggle shop, said the old wizard stubbornly. Muggles wear them. Muggle women wear them, Archie, not the men. They wear these, said the ministry wizard, and he brandished the pinstripe trousers. I'm not putting them on, said old Archie in indignation. I like a healthy breeze round my private parts, thanks.
Yes. The only reason I didn't choose this is because I knew you would. I knew you would. So I loved it too. It is the best line.
It's awesome. I love Archie.
I love Archie.
It's very much like, oh, there's Grandpa. Crazy old Grandpa.
Crazy old Grandpa who's lived through everything, and you know what? This is what I'm going to do, and I kind of did the rules, so...
This is what you're getting.
Sod off, right?
Yeah. I like a healthy breeze around my privates, thanks. I love it.
Thank you. I do too. All right, so I'm going to jump into mine. It's a bit longer than yours.
See that?
A wizard had just apparated at their fireside, and he could not have made more of a contrast with Ludo Bagman, sprawled on the grass in his old wasp robes. Barty Crouch was a stiff, upright, elderly man, dressed in an impeccable crisp suit and tie. The parting in his short gray hair was almost unnaturally straight, and his narrow toothbrush mustache looked as though he trimmed it using a slide rule. His shoes were very highly polished. Harry could see at once why Percy idolized him. Percy was a great believer in rigidly following rules, and Mr. Crouch had complied with the rule about Muggle dressing so thoroughly that he could have passed for a bank manager. Harry doubted even Uncle Vernon would have spotted him for what he really was.
And that is my favorite part. Mm-hmm. That we get a Dursley shout out, and that's high praise for your Muggle dressing ability if Vernon wouldn't be able to spot you.
The muggliest Muggle of them all.
That's right. If the muggliest Muggle who knows what Muggles versus wizards are can't identify you as a non-Muggle, you passed. Yeah. Like on a scale of Archie to Barty Crouch, everyone else fits in somewhere in between on their Muggle dress. Pretty much.
Yeah. This is kind of right up there with the Dumbledore introduction in chapter 1, book 1 of just like really, really good description of a character's appearance. And JK does a really, really good job at that.
And she does it without it being boring. Because one of my least favorite things to read in books are the descriptive paragraphs of the wind blowing through the trees as the flowers, la la la, and the deer. I don't care. I don't care about descriptions. I don't care how much the people look, but she writes them in a way.
She's adding these little quips along.
Yeah,
with
because you get personality with it.
Right. Harry could see at once why Percy idolized him. Like it's just kind of okay. Well, this makes sense. It's kind of funny, and it's good stuff. Really, really good stuff.
All right, let's jump into who was your chapter MVP.
Archie, no doubt.
None. He was the best.
He was the best for 2 lines. He's hilarious. I want to hang out with him and watch the Quidditch match. I think that'd be awesome.
Plus,
I don't want to take care of him.
No, I don't want to be in charge
responsible. But
I'd like to have a
hang
drink
out
with him.
Absolutely.
Right? Well, I mean, let's just give a little mini shout out to J.K. Rowling that she got away with talking about like having your nether regions free flowing in the wind there in a kid's book.
Yeah.
Kids don't do that at home. But yeah, that was very sneaky. Very well done.
Yeah, that does remind me. I just went to the Renaissance Fair this past week.
Nice.
It was Highland. The Highlanders were the theme. So
nice.
a lot of kilts.
A lot of kilts. My honorable mention goes to Weatherby. Perfect. And his cup of tea. Thank you, Weatherby.
Fred George's reaction, like I think like one of them's taking a drink and they like spit it back into their cup. And it's just hilarious.
Like the two of them took that moment, made a mental picture, and like framed it in their mind and hung it on a wall, on the Percy wall, of like things to always use. And it might even be front and center now. Like that is little brother gold right there.
Absolutely. It's kind of like they have their joke gun, and they're just like picking up bullets. Like,
and that was a silver bullet.
And here's a rocket-propelled grenade that fits into this thing. It's just...
And I'm not going to use it. It's just going to sit right here next to me.
And I've got it.
But you don't know what I'm going to do with it.
Yeah, I love it.
How's that girlfriend of yours, Percy?
Right? Yeah. I mean, Weatherby.
Hey, I think that finishes us up for the night.
It sure does.
So we are going to skedaddle on out of here. You can find us on Twitter at @NotNamePodcast. Send us emails at thepodcastthat@gmail.com. My favorite place for you to go is our website, thepodcastthat.com, where you can find this show and all of our shows. Today, I want you to go to the Support Us page, and I want you to look at our Amazon affiliate link, where you can buy all sorts of Harry Potter paraphernalia, particularly some really nice models of the Hogwarts Castle, which is quite expensive and out of my price range, but hey, you do you.
While you're on the website, definitely check out the podcast That Fights and F-Words for more kilt talk. And after you do that, subscribe, like, rate, and leave comments on iTunes. Even if you are a PC user, you can still download iTunes to your desktop and create an account, put comments on there. It's definitely the place where most people find their podcasts and download. So it really, really, really helps us out.
Join us next week as we get to chapter number 8.
The Quidditch World Cup. Stay imaginary.
Thanks.